Hi folks, welcome back to Three Barrow Farm. Grab your cuppa, let's go and have a vegetable garden tour. Having a presence in the garden this morning is ideal because we have quite a flock of cockatoos hanging around the chicken coop, probably eating some seed that was accidentally dropped, and me being out here is definitely stopping them from coming out into my vegetable patch. So we have three functioning vegetable patches. One, the one behind me, number one, we'll call it plot number one. It is unfinished, but we are getting a big load of manure soon and we will finish it off. We've got heaps of cardboard and I look forward to showing you how I start off our vegetable patches. And then we've got plot number two, and plot number two is where I've been working mostly the last month. I have been staying on top of the garden and moving plants that have come up in the pathways. So I do let a lot of things go to seed in my vegetable patches, and sometimes they go in the pathways and I have to pop them back into the rows. And then we've got plot number three, and that really needs some attention. I am going to be giving it lots of attention, especially after we get the manure. And I'm going to show you how I stay on top of weed control and such in our no-dig gardens. So each of our vegetable plots have 5 rows. 3 of the rows are around 80 centimeters in width, and we have 2 rows in each of the plots that are thinner. They're around 20 centimeters, maybe not even that. They're mainly used for one row. Here come some more cockies. My dogs just shooed the cockatoos away and now they're coming back again. They just sit in one of those old big massive gum trees over there and just wait until they can come over again. So the 2 rows that are thinner have the Rio on them, and I'll show you that in a moment. I don't have any Rio in vegetable plot number 1, but basically we have a growing space of 3 rows that are around 80 centimeters, 90 centimeters wide. So we plant sort of 2 rows down, or 3, depending on what we're planting in each of those rows. So they are around 8 meters long. They're probably a little bit longer now because we've sort of been extending the patches just a tiny bit. And then we've got those 2 rows that they're planned for single row planting, but we do sometimes do some undercover crops on the things that grow up the Rio as well. So you can see plot number 1 behind me. It is mainly rhubarb that we've planted here. I have planted some asparagus as well. The asparagus is not going to live here forever. It is going to go into a different plot. But this bed we are sort of planning to be our perennial garden for the perennial vegetables. So I do eventually want to plant my strawberries out here. We have our strawberries in our front garden currently. But yeah, this plot, we will probably plant pumpkins and things like that in this plot this year before we decide to plant the strawberries in. So we've got heaps and heaps of cardboard ready to go. We've got these compost bins here. I'll talk about the compost bins in a moment. There's one old compost bin back here as well, which it's sort of breaking apart, but I still want to use it somehow. I don't want anything to go to waste on this farm. So yeah, plot number 1 is still in the motions. And the reason why it's plot number 1 is just because I number them left to right along here. So we started with plot number 3 because it's directly opposite our back door of our house. So we started there. We can see it from most of the windows at the back of the house, and we could keep an eye on it, keep an eye on the birds and such. And then we moved over to plot 2, and then we've moved over to plot 3. So as you can see, the rhubarbs are flowering, and we need to do some maintenance on these rhubarb plants. We need to cut out the flowers. We need to do a little bit of harvesting, but mostly just taking off the dead leaves on the bottom of the plants. So there's not much to show here, but that is plot number 1. So that is our first vegetable plot. Okay, vegetable plot number 2. So I'm very excited about this plot. I've been putting a lot of time into this garden here. As you can probably see, I did let the fennel and coriander go to seed in this garden, because there are lots of fennel and coriander plants in the pathways and in the rows as well. We have a lot of plants that could be transplanted. I try to transplant as many as I can. So I have transplanted fennel and some peas as well into this row here along the Rio, and I have transplanted some of the coriander as well. Okay, so in this vegetable plot I have a big calendula plant at the front, and I've got quite a few dill plants coming up as well. I had dill here last year and it went to seed, and there are tons of little mini dills growing in this section, so I need to transplant some of them perhaps. There are a lot of calendula plants, a lot, and there are also some cornflower plants coming up as well. So I will be transplanting some of these calendula plants to the front garden because we don't need this many. I'm also going to be giving some away to friends. So we have some kale as well, and then we have some cabbages. So I've forgotten the name of these cabbages. I will put it on the screen. As you can see, one of them is hearting up nicely, and the others aren't too far behind. So I did have some damage from the cockatoos that you can hear in the background. They did completely destroy one plant, and they chopped out some of these as well, but thankfully they have come back to life. Oh, and I've got some oregano growing in here along with some calendula. You will find that my garden is quite wild right now. I will tame it in spring and it will become quite uniform, but at the moment it is quite wild. Not as wild as it gets in autumn though. Okay, we've got some more calendula plants here that are coming up, and some coriander as well. There's just coriander coming up everywhere. But in between I have some broccoli, some green sprouting broccoli, and they are growing so much faster now that I've started putting the frost cloth over the beds. And this is a reminder for me to continue to do this through winter. I need to put the frost cloth over, because then I will get more growth, because it'll be warmer under the frost cloth for these plants. So as you can see, there are more fennel and some weeds and some corianders, more corianders, so much coriander. I love coriander. So I have done something that most people would not do. I have planted some common mint in my vegetable patch, and this is because all my herbs were sort of dying. There's a weed right there. So all my herb plants were sort of dying in my front garden, which is, you know, where we're planting our herbs mostly. But I was managing to kill all the mints. They were getting suffocated by grass or they were just dying out. So I've planted some mint here, and I did the same with thyme as well. I planted thyme into my vegetable garden and it's doing really, really well. I think we have irrigation like this out the front as well, but I really think that this garden just goes on so much more often than the front garden, and these plants are getting up and away, and eventually I will move them back into the front garden. Okay, so next we have some spinach, and of course we've got some random coriander as well, but this spinach is quite holy. There seems to be something that's eating them. So they're getting quite a few holes, and to me this means that the soil is not well balanced, so we need some more calcium in this soil. I will be putting on a lot of lime and dolomite. You could put gypsum down as well, but plants need calcium, and the bugs and creatures really enjoy eating the calcium deficient plants, and this is why you'll see insects eating the old leaves on plants, because they're losing their condition, they're losing their calcium levels, they're getting older. And then as you can see here, the little new shoots, the new leaves are not getting eaten as much, although these ones, some of them are getting eaten a bit. So my soil does not have enough nutrients in here to support the plant, and so these plants will also be low in nutrition for us as well. So I need to do some amending to this soil, and so putting things like organic matter and calcium into the soil or onto the soil. See, these baby plants aren't being attacked as much, so they're stronger, whereas the older ones that have been through here all winter, they're probably needing some more nutrients. So I haven't done a seaweed spray on these for a while as well, so they definitely need something, and this is why we need to continually feed the soil. We need to continually be putting into the soil as we're taking out of it. So these plants are taking out nutrients and we need to put it back in. Okay, you would have seen in a video recently I planted some potatoes, and I have planted some Dutch cream potatoes here, and I had this fleece, this alpaca fleece from our alpacas. I'm just gonna weed a little bit while I'm going through the garden. It's a good excuse to pull them out when I see them. Jackie, can you get off please? So I took advantage of using this alpaca fleece, which I had on the top of one of my compost bins. So I use it to keep the moisture in on the compost bins. So I decided to put it around the potatoes. Not only does it show me where I've planted the potato seeds, but it's also some mulch for the potatoes. Now, as you will recall in other videos, if you've watched them, I planted everything out in autumn quite late. And these purple cauliflowers, I'm not sure if I'm going to get ahead from these, but we shall see what happens. But basically, I planted these and they have a lifespan. Every plant has a lifespan. So there's a certain number of days until harvest, and if they don't get big enough, if they don't get enough nutrients and water to get big enough, then they're just not going to develop. They're going to go leggy and they're going to go to seed as soon as they can, because they want to produce that seed. The plant's whole point is to put out seed so it can make more plants. So see this one here? It's got a tiny little head. So this shows me that this is a failure to me. I can collect some of the seed off this, but I kind of don't want to, because it didn't grow to what it's supposed to be. It didn't grow to its potential. So you want to take seeds off the best of your plants, and this one's not. So I could basically cut this out and just give it to the chickens, and that will be better use than waiting for it to just come up and make nothing really. So I planted these with my some of my garlics. Now my garlics aren't as big as they have been in previous years, and I'm not quite sure why, but they're just not getting as big as they have been. So whether these little cloves were smaller than I normally plant, I'm not sure, but I think I'm definitely going to buy some new garlic bulbs to plant out in autumn next year, because these ones just have not done what my garlics have done in the past. So I think it's time to refresh. And as you can see over here in the pathway, there are a whole heap of leeks growing, and I need to transplant these elsewhere so they're not in my path. Okay, and so in here also I have planted some potatoes. So there's some potatoes here and potato here, but as you can see here, I planted potatoes here last year, and there are some coming up here and over here as well, and here. So I didn't get all of the potatoes out of this garden, and rarely do you get all of them out. They always generally sprout up again the next year. And at the end of every single row, I have a compost bin. So we rotate our compost bins, and let's have a look inside this one. This one is close to being ready. Oof, there are heaps of worms. And I've got this cardboard on top. Okay. Oh, we've got quite a lot of worms. Let me make this a bit lighter so you can see. So we've got quite a few worms up here. It's probably a bit too moist in here, so that's why they're coming up over here. They're trying to get away from all that moisture. Oh, there's some here as well. I don't want to squash them when I put the lid back on. So this compost bin, I've been turning the soil in here, and my idea is with every compost bin on every row is to spread this compost out on the row that it's on. So that is my plan. So far, I've done a bit of that, but I've also used the compost in places that I've needed to use it. So it's not only just been used on this row, or on the row that the compost bin is on. Just pop the cardboard back on there, keep the moisture in, although it doesn't really need to have the moisture kept in, because it's obvious that it is quite moist in there. I might put some shredded newspaper in there to sort of mix some shredded newspaper to dry it up just a little bit. Okay, so here I have some dandelions. So these are dandelions that I actually grew from seed, and I put in here because they are so very important for our health. They're so good for you. And just chewing on one dandelion leaf a day will help with the enamel on your teeth. And I also have, you'll see later on, especially in vegetable plot number 3, there are a lot of poppy plants coming up. I mean, they've been growing all winter, basically, and I will let them go to flower, and then I will pull them out. And I've got lots of nettle, and this nettle is growing into the pathway. I'm not too concerned, about something growing in the pathway when it's at the end of the vegetable plot, but it is, I will be harvesting a lot of this nettle from the pathway here, and just sort of try and contain it to this section here. But yeah, I need to put some gloves on and pick out all of this new growth. It's so good. It's all coming up, and it's ready to put in juices and to dry and to have as tea or make a tincture. I'm also pulling out a lot of this onion grass, trying to get the bulbs out. That's one thing we struggle with here, is onion grass. I It's coming up all over at the moment. It's with growth, with new shoots, because we're coming into spring. We're coming into hay fever season, and this nettle will help with your hay fever. So it's coming up right at the time that we need it. All right, so this is row 2. We have a few leeks coming up, lots of weeds, but basically nothing down row number 2. Row 2 is waiting for when we have tomatoes and things like that to plant out in spring. I have got a lot of coriander here. I've just been harvesting every week from this coriander. Got to make the most of it before it goes to seed. And I have a cornflower plant as well. I've got some kale, and I planted some sweet peas in this row last year, so that's coming up again. More coriander and some fennel as well, and some kale. And at the end here, we've got a borage. Oh, the breeze is picking up. And at the end here, I have a catmint plant. I've also got a kale growing in the catmint plant as well. So this catmint is putting on all new growth. This is the new growth here. So this is the old growth, and this is the new. And catmint is great for nerves. It is such a good plant for having before bed, making a cup of tea, or having it as a tincture. It will help you relax in time for sleeping. Okay, I'm going to try and stand in front of the microphone so that the breeze does not upset the sound. So I'm sorry if it is upsetting the sound. Just noticed some grass here, so I can see some potato sprouts are coming up here. So this is where I planted my potatoes. So we've got the Nicola potatoes here, and I have planted some radishes in between the potatoes. So the radishes will be ready well and truly before the potato plants bush up and get big. Like, they'll be ready within weeks, I'd say. As soon as it gets a bit warmer, they will just sprout up. I think that might be a kale plant there. I might take that out. And I've got another dandelion plant coming up here. So this would have come from seed from that dandelion plant all the way over there. It would have blown here, and here it is growing. I need to start harvesting the flowers, and I'm going to make a salve from the flowers. So here I have some calendula. I've got some green heart calendula plants that I've planted here. And then we're moving into kale. So lots and lots of, I believe this is red Russian kale, I'm pretty sure. So all of my kale pretty much comes up from seed. I didn't plant any of this intentionally. It has just come up all by itself, although I transplanted these plants, or maybe not that one, but these ones and these little ones I transplanted into this section. So these ones all came up from seed. And then I've also transplanted some fennel, a little row of fennel along here. Then we have some more Nicola and some more Dutch cream potatoes in this section. I chopped out, this was where I chopped out the massive fennel plant that I had last year, and I tried to chop it all out. I don't want to pull it up because that's going to disturb all of those weed seeds and everything that's hiding underneath the layers of cardboard that were there that have now rotted, and all of this manure and compost that I've put down. So I don't want to pull it up, but as you can see, it's sprouting again. So I kind of want to come and chop that all away again, but I need to come through and weed here as well. I've got a bronze fennel plant growing here, which I'm probably just going to chop out or dig out and move somewhere else. So there are potatoes all along here. Something has dug into this. And when I get the manure, I'm going to be piling up the manure on top of these potatoes and it's gonna, they're gonna become quite mounded up so that the potatoes can continue to make more potatoes. Sorry, the plant can continue to make more potatoes as it grows up higher. Some more kale there. And as soon as the kale starts to go to seed, which it will, because, it might not actually, it depends, because it usually flowers in its second year. So I think these ones are only in their first year, but I will probably pull some of them out. All right, I've got some more dandelions here, and this one has puffed out its seed, so there's all the seed there. So I've collected quite a bit of dandelion seed, but I'm quite happy for the dandelions to put their seed everywhere and here's some flowers that I could harvest for myself, so I might come back later and get those. But all of these ones have already started to go to seed. So yeah, dandelion is so good for us. Sorry, there's that breeze again. Yeah, it's so good for us. I will do a video on dandelion eventually. And yeah, more coriander, heaps and heaps of coriander. Can never have enough coriander. I have some more kale here. But look, here is a plant in the walkway, and it's holding on with dear life and just on a few roots here. This is a rainbow chard. And my daughter, I think, has been pruning it back and feeding some of it to the sheep. So it's quite small now, and I'll probably pull that out soon. I have some onions, I think. So these ones have all come up by themselves. And yeah, I'm not sure what they are. We will see what they are eventually. I'll have to look back on my notes and see what I planted here and what has gone to seed here. Another dandelion here. So this one, if you look back a few videos ago, the cockies came and destroyed a whole heap of plants, including some of the plants in this kale patch as well. And they basically chopped into the root of this plant, and it has bounced back just beautifully. So the plants can come back after destruction. Here we have some more kale. So lots of kale. Love our kale. We're absolutely obsessed with kale. Okay, here I have some mullein. So remember how I said I decided to plant some of my herbs and my medicinal herbs. Well, every herb is medicinal, but these ones I planted last year, and I've harvested many leaves, but they have not flowered yet. So they flower in their second year. So I'm looking forward to when they flower. I have some more fennel plants along here, and then I've got a big thicket of leeks. So these leeks have come up all by themselves, hence why they are so thick and bunched up together. But I will start harvesting these when they get a tiny bit bigger, and we love using lots of leek in our meals instead of onions. And yeah, some of them are getting bigger while some of them are still quite small. Another dandelion plant with some weeds, some non-medicinal weeds. And here we have some clary sage. Clary sage finally coming back up. So more herbs here. And we've also, I have got echinacea. Oh, here's one coming up. It's got a weed next to it. Let's pick that weed out. Here's some echinacea coming back up. So they go dormant through winter, and then they come back up in spring, and they flower in late spring and summer. I've got a random celery plant here, which is not doing so well. I haven't had much success with celery of late, but this one has come up from seed, and I think it is the seed that it just produces all this leggy celery stalks. But it looks like there's like multiple in here, so it's probably just that they're all suffocating each other. They're all too close to one another. They're all competing. So I'm just going to cut this at the base, and yeah, hopefully it won't sprout up again. And here we have some yarrow. So this is the white yarrow, and I use this for medicinal purposes and for lovely flower arrangements as well. And here, what have we got here? Is this valerian? Can't remember what I planted here and what this is. I think it's valerian. And I've got some more yarrows coming up. I will pop on the screen what this plant is because I have forgotten. Okay, and so down this Rio, this is row number 4. So down this Rio bed here, I have some fennel growing, which I've transplanted from the pathway, and I've put all this compost down. And the compost also had some shredded paper that we were using for the chickens' nesting boxes. So yeah, this is all fennel going down here. We've got some random kales as well in the path over there, and yeah, some more kale here. So all of these kales, sorry, the breeze is happening again. So all these kales came up from seed, every single one of them, and I had some in the pathway here, so I transplanted those into the row that I just showed you up here. And we had some peas coming up all by themselves in the row as well. I've just noticed that there's a bit of moisture damage here, a bit of sort of rotting happening going on. I have had some troubles with peas in the past. They have rotted from the ground up, even when they were quite big and up here, and they just started rotting. So I think that has to do with the amount of rain that we've been having in the past few years. But yeah, I've transplanted them here. I've still got some fennels in the pathway here that I really need to transplant. Okay, and we have the last row here of vegetable plot number 2. So I've got lots of coriander in the front here. It's just like a carpet of coriander. And basically nothing through here. I've got some feverfew plants that I need to transplant elsewhere. But I just whacked this one in probably during summer last year. I purchased the plant off one of my kids' friends who was selling them at a market, and I just whacked it in here. Now this row, as you'll see, we've only got one irrigation line because I need to fix the other one. So I took the other one out of the bed, and I've got all this bronze fennel. I transplanted some of this into the front garden, so we use this in our food. It won't produce bulbs, but the ones that I've planted out the front are more for its prettiness. So when it goes to seed, the seed heads are just so pretty, and you can use them in floral displays as well. But yeah, you can just use the fennel leaves just as you normally would in cooking. So yeah, more kale in the pathway. I have got an array of brassicas here that I'm not sure how these are going to go. Again, I planted things so late, but they didn't get the warmth at the start, and that's the main thing. They needed the warmth at the start. This one was eaten by the cockatoos, and actually it's got some aphids on it. So I have seen some ladybirds around, but not enough obviously yet because it's still quite cold. But I have seen a little bit of that. I don't know if these ones are the same as aphids because they're like grey sort of looking. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if it focuses well when I put it closer. I found a few of them in my garden, and this is just another clue that my soil is not nutrient enough. So these are, this plant here, it's been attacked so many times by the birds, and it's growing oddly. It's sort of, its actual heart is here, so I may as well chop this out and give it to the chickens because I don't think it's going to give me anything. And same with this, like this is just really, it's come up from the one that was eaten here, and it's not going to produce anything because the plant is just too old now. The regrowth on it just won't bring me anything. And this spinach, I've got more spinach here. It's also holey in some of the areas. Other plants are not so holey. So yeah, got a lot of work to do on the soil. And I've got more coriander here, just coriander everywhere. Got some more brassicas here. They're probably the purple cauliflower. And then I've got beetroot, lots of beetroot. The beetroot is looking nice and healthy. So I've got some different types of beetroot along here, and the bulbs are starting to get a bit bigger. So that's exciting. I will have some to harvest in spring, and I shall make some more, all sorts of things with the beetroot, really. I like eating it roasted, but my family's not so keen on it. The only way that my family likes to eat it is when it's pickled. So I will pickle some as well and renew our stores. And I've got another clump. Seems like there's many celeries in here, and I think this is the problem with this celery, is that it is clumped up. There's so many plants in that one clump, and that's why they're not succeeding. Either that or the seed is just no good. And for the rest of this bed, there is really nothing in here. I think there's a couple of fennels here, but I will pull them out when I plant some other things in here. And at the end of this bed, in the pathway actually, I have a wormwood plant, and I really would like to dig this out and plant it next to the chicken coop when we build a new chicken coop. And I've got another compost bin, and this one is our current compost bin. I need to add some dry ingredients in here, but you can see some worms in there. They are loving the fact that we have just put all this chicken manure mixed with paper into this bin. So this is our current one, and we've got a little flag here that shows us which bin we are currently using. Okay friends, I am standing in front of vegetable plot number 3, and this garden is in much need of some work. It has a lot of weeds. It is just overrun with poppies and all sorts, so it really does need attention. I really need to get out here. I have started on the last row because that just seemed to be an easier spot to start. It's got a lot of chickweed out there, and I have been harvesting some chickweed and doing things with the chickweed. I will have a video on chickweed soon. Yeah, but as you can see through here, there's just so many weeds. There's calendulas, there's mustard growing that's come up from seed. The Egyptian walking onions are sort of a bit dormant at the moment, but they've all clumped up, and there's many more coming up as well. I have my thyme all the way down there. It's a bit messy here, but I'll try to take you through and show you. Okay, so in the first row here, I have garlic. I'm just going to show you the main things that I have, because there are a lot of things in the rows, as in the pathways as well. It's just easier if I just show you what I'm mainly got planted. I had there's some potatoes coming up here. So potatoes randomly coming up. I did not plant these. They are coming up from last year's potatoes. I've got some parsley coming up here, that has been growing. More potatoes. Wow, this is just so wild. Look at the gnome here. We got these gnomes from my grandparents' garden before they sold their house, and the chickweed and the poppy behind it are just taking over this little guy. How lovely is that? I need to harvest all of this chickweed and sort of cut it down. Once I've got enough of the chickweed, I'll cut it down and I'll just put it on the ground as mulch. I have some kale, some more kale, lots of bird damage here. I I took off these covers one morning, and yeah, the birds came without me noticing. And I have some kohlrabi here, and this kohlrabi just needs to be taken out of the ground. Oh, this one's got a good bulb on it, but a little bulb, and that one's got a little bulb on it. But these guys are going to seed. See? They're going to seed. I'm going to take these off and use all the greens, though. All the leaves are edible. Especially the younger ones. I'm going to put them in some frittatas or something like that. Oh, it's got a bit of aphid damage. Oh, look at this. Look at that. That's quite a bit of damage there. I mean, that's, a lot of them. I'm going to take this out to my chickens. They're going to enjoy eating those. But yeah, these were planted too late, as I said. It just pays to plant things at the right time. If you plant things too late, they don't get enough sun at the start of autumn, and then they really fail. They just don't get enough to get big enough, and then over winter, they're just in the ground for too long. These celeries, these are a little bit more uniform, and so I need to come around and take off all of the outer stems. But we're getting a bit of a celery, a proper sort of bunched up celery growing there. We also have some parsnips. I couldn't think of the word. There are parsnips growing in here, and they're looking pretty good, although they're quite suffocated by the chickweed, and I need to, I'm just going to continually repeat that I need to come out here, but I need to get into this garden. Now that I've gotten on top of vegetable plot number 2, I can get on top of this one. Here's some mizuna. I love it. It gives sort of a fiery, peppery flavour in your salads. And I have only ever planted this once. I've got some growing again this year in the trays inside. But this just goes to seed, and more plants just grow from it. So I didn't plant these. They all came up by themselves, including all of this celery and all of the poppies. Look at that. It's just like a sea of poppies. Oh my goodness. So all of the chickweed, all of the celery, and all of these poppies have come up all by themselves. And I really need to get in here. I'm planning on keeping... Let me pop around. Oh, firstly, here's another compost bin. I've got some rotted alpaca fleece on top of this bin to keep the moisture in. Doesn't really need help keeping the moisture in at this time of year, but I have got so many poppies growing in this row, in this pathway here. But I'm planning, oh look, and there's a red mustard in there. But I'm planning on keeping, here's some clover. I'm planning on keeping this here, letting it go to flower. And then, I'll enjoy the flowers off it. What's this? Is this some leek? Some more leeks coming up as well. Very wild, guys. Lots of chickweed, lots of poppies. Once all of these poppies have flowered, I'm just going to pull the plants out. So I'm going to enjoy some flowers from them. If I run out of space and I really want to use this row here, I will start pulling it out before it's flowered. So it just depends on what I've got, but I'm not going to take it out right now. The idea is that it is covering the soil. So the soil is covered by these poppies, and the weeds can't grow. So the weeds can't get get through, except for, I've got a little bit of grass there I can see, and a few weeds that I need to go through it just to sort through a bit and make sure that it's not too weedy, but it's keeping things like this from growing up. So if the soil's covered and I'm not using this area yet, I'm just going to leave it as it is because it's keeping all those weeds from growing. So we've just got a carpet of chickweed, some grass, lots of weeds down here. My daughter has planted some broad beans and they're starting to sprout now. So we've got crimson flowered broad beans. This is my daughter's handwriting. And I think just the standard broad beans, I'm not quite sure what it's called. And I've got some clumping Egyptian walking onions down here. Okay, so another example. I've got some borage here. I always have borage growing here and I let it grow out of the garden bed here, and the bees absolutely love all the flowers that come from these borage plants. I've got my dogs sniffing around. I'm wondering why. What has been here that is so exciting? So, not sure what's happening here. Is this a bit of rot? It's a bit too wet. These are my Brussels sprouts and they are nowhere near what I would expect them to be at this time of year if I had planted them at the right time. So this is the lesson for all of us to learn, and you're all going to remind me when it comes to autumn. You're going to remind me that I need to get my seeds and my seedlings planted. It's got some Brussels sprouts growing up here. What is there that's so interesting? Something smells really good. Maybe a mouse was running around last night. All right, more kale, more weeds, more... Oh, these are the... See, that one rotted. So these are the celeries that I raised inside. So if you go back quite a few videos, you will see, and I'll link it below if I remember, too. These are the celeries that I got from the shops. So I got these from my greengrocers and I put them in water, and this is all the growth coming from them. So I'm getting more stems from them. I can see some evening primrose coming up here. Lots of weeds. So many weeds. We're just going to skip through all the weeds. A few more evening primroses. More of the Egyptian walking onions, and this row has not been covered, and the cockies have been down and they have taken some out. I'm not too worried about that though, because I have so many of the Egyptian walking onions, just so many of them. And here I have my big thyme bush. So the thyme is just, oh, it smells so good. It's coming out again. It's coming out with new growth, a little bit of new growth. And you see here, this is nice and new, but this is the old stuff here. And I really would like to chop this up into a few plants and take some out into my front garden. It's sort of encroaching on the pathway, and then we have more poppies encroaching on the pathway, more celeries that have just come up by themselves, just an array. Just look, it just keeps going on. It's just a sea of poppies, just so many of them. And another compost bin. So this one needs to be turned. This, I believe this was the last one that we filled. So it's breaking down nicely, but it needs to be turned a bit. And some random peas growing at the base of the compost bin. Some grass as well, which my dogs are going to help prune right now. Okay, I'm slowly running out of battery here on my camera, but I have some comfrey here. And this comfrey has been here for quite a few years now, and it just loves it here. We really enjoy being able to pick the comfrey. Comfrey is known as the bone healer, so you can make a balm or salve from infused comfrey, and it will help with your broken bones or anything to do with bones and muscles. It's really great. So we've got some of that. Also, it brings up all the nutrients. It has such a deep taproot. It brings up all that nutrients. All right, we're going to quickly go through here because I have 1% left on my camera. We've got some leeks randomly growing here too. Just had to step over all of the poppies here. They're getting quite tall. I've popped heaps of alpaca manure, heaps of alpaca poo here. The plants are going to love this when I plant out in spring. I've got some chamomile. So it's quite a lawn of chamomile here with some poppies as well. Some more calendulas, and these plants here, these I think they're purple sprouting broccoli. See, look, this one, it's just not going to do anything. So I'm going to harvest all the leaves and use the leaves in cooking, but this is just going to seed. And some of these got hit by the cockies, so they've started, they've sprouted again, and they just don't have enough time to make a big enough heart. So I'll harvest these. This one might be a bit bigger, but I'll harvest them and we'll see how we go. I've got lots of evening primrose coming up. Another random celery. I think I'm going to do a big celery harvest and freeze a lot of the celery. And yeah, got a lot of seeds that fell from all my medicinal herbs last year. So all of these, I've just sort of been scratching them up, so not letting them turn into plants and just sort of using them as mulch, just allowing them to dry back on the ground. And I've planted some calendulas in here, and I've planted, it's coming up again. I planted it last year. I've got some lemon balm here, mugwort growing here, and some catmint. This catmint's looking very happy, though there are a few holes occurring on the leaves, so I will have to amend the soil, feed it more, put more manure around these plants. I've got some parsleys growing in here and some lettuces and a random kale. But yeah, I really need to get into this garden. As I said, there's just so much to do in here. It is very wild. Okay, my friends, and I forgot to mention that we have these apple rows in between every plot as well. And we have room for another 2 plots, so we can have 5 vegetable plots all up. I do hope that we will get the other 2 happening one year soon. But at the moment, as you can see, I still need the time that I have just to stay on top of what I've got out there. And look, it does get easier if you don't let things around you go to seed, like weeds and particularly plants in your vegetable garden as well, like the poppies that I've let go to seed, and they've just, covered the garden. It's not a bad thing to let that happen, as I mentioned. But yeah, I need to spend all my time that I have on the beds that we have now. Once I'm on top of those, I can start more beds. But I definitely want to finish off vegetable plot number 1, because that's just going to be full of pumpkins and things like that this year. But in between, as you can see behind me, there are some apple trees. We have these rows between our vegetable plots, and as you will see, as we get into spring and summer, they really shade that west, because we're facing west this way, that's west. They really shade the west sun from the vegetable plots, and they're also a great windbreak as well. Okay folks, my camera is running out of battery. Thank you so much if you have watched this to the end. I hope you enjoyed that little tour. It is going to change so much over the next few months. I'm really excited to show you how it changes, and I'm going to be putting all of the tours in a separate playlist so you'll be able to watch the change as it happens. I will be back again next week for another video. Take care, my friends, and enjoy your gardens. See you next time. Bye.